Hey, everybody. In this episode of Movies Merica, we talk about a tasty yet touching movie today, okay? This is a movie where Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. Take a break from the Iron Man suits and the high action and the big budget, and they, kind of slow it down, bring it a little bit more down to earth with a very tasty flair. Stay tuned.
In a world where the number of movies available is great, but many are so bad, you'll learn a new definition of hate. One man sifts and reviews through the movie sludge. One man will be the movie cop, jury, and judge. He goes by many names, but you know him by Movies Merica.
All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining me for this latest episode of Movies Merica. All right. So, as always, I really appreciate it here. And you know what? Welcome on in, friends. Welcome on in, family. Okay. Relax your mind, relax yourself. All right, it's time to chill here because you're here with me with Movies Merica. And we're going to talk movies, all right, or more specifically, a movie called Chef, okay? And just to let you know, just to give you the broad strokes as far as what Chef with Jon Favreau and Sofia Vergara and Scarlett Johansson, what it's all about, right? Probably good to have a good basis idea as far as what the movie's all about. Well, Jon Favreau, he plays a famous chef named Carl Casper, okay? So Chef Carl Casper. And he started out in Miami as a young chef. He got rave reviews. And I guess, from him getting rave reviews and becoming famous, he ended up in L.A. I guess maybe L.A. is the place to be. For if you're a chef, or chef du cuisine, as he's called, and so he ends up out in L.A. And he has an ex-wife played by Sofia Vergara and a son named Percy. I'm guessing he's like 7 or 8 or something like that. So I'm bad with kids' ages. A young boy, okay. And so the movie is about he's this big chef at this big fancy restaurant, on the west side of L.A., and he works for Dustin Hoffman, who owns the restaurant. Dustin Hoffman's character is named Riva. And so Chef Carl Casper, he wants to be imaginative in what he cooks, okay? He wants to just let his creative juices flow and cook what he wants. But Dustin Hoffman is this, it's no risk, no courage, just play everything by the book, play it safe, just cook the same old food for the customers that come in every week or whatever, because, the customers love what they have on the menu already. And Dustin Hoffman's philosophy is, hey, you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Don't try anything new. Just stay with the same old stuff night after night, week after week, month after month, right? And Chef Carl Casper is like, hey, I'm a chef, man. I want to spread my wings and try new things out. And so there's that conflict between those two. And so then things happen that spawn from that. And there's a food critic involved. And Chef Carl Casper, Jon Favreau's character, finds himself on the outs. And he's in a situation. He goes back to Miami with his ex-wife and his kid, and there's he ends up getting on a road trip with his kid to reestablish this relationship because he's kind of a bad dad because he's just so career focused, and so his kid's like priority number 17, and so he uses this road trip to reconnect with his kid and get to know him and basically do the right thing, which is to be a good dad. That's the broad strokes. I wanted to give you a description without spoiling anything and whatnot. I don't want to be that guy. But that's what we're playing with here today in this episode of Movies Merica, okay? So I hope you're still with me, and let's proceed on. It's just going to get better and better, tastier and tastier. It would be an understatement to say that Jon Favreau has something to do with this movie, okay? So not only does he star in it, he directed it, and he wrote it, okay? So this is Jon Favreau's baby, okay? This is his cinematic baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, okay? His fingerprints are all over this thing, and you know what? You could tell that he made it in the same fashion that he did his earlier movies, like Swingers way back in the 90s, and Made, both those movies co-starring Vince Vaughn. And so those were back like in his indie days where he was, making movies with not a huge budget like he did with Iron Man and Iron Man 2. But this movie, where this falls into his filmography, his directing filmography, is this movie came out after the big box office dud that he did called Cowboys and Aliens with Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford, okay? So I think he chose to do that movie instead of doing Iron Man 3, okay, which turned out to be, a terrible decision. But you know what? I'm not going to fault Jon Favreau. He wanted to do something different, wanted to try something. The idea was pure and good. The execution was not. Okay? Cowboys and Aliens is a horrible movie, okay? And so he did Chef. He returned to some more crowd-pleasing, thoughtful, just plain old good filmmaking with Chef. So he had Cowboys and Aliens, then he had this movie, Chef, and then his next movie was The Jungle Book, okay? So this movie came out in 2014. And I saw this movie back in 2014, and I'm just now doing a review on it just because, you know what, I have a close personal relationship with procrastination. Yes. Guilty as charged, this guy. I graduated magna cum laude from Procrastination University, okay? But I always wanted to do a review of Chef because it's one of my favorite movies. It is just, I know we all have a movie or movies that, if we're having a bad day, if work sucks or a relationship sucks or, somebody cut us off in traffic and we're just ticked off and we just need a break from, this grind called life. There's a movie or movies, that I'm sure each of us can think of that we would just throw in and watch, and it brings us back to happier times. It puts us in a good mood, maybe mushes our brain a little bit and just, talks us down off the ledge. Well, Chef is one of those movies for me, and along with like Top Gun Maverick or Shawshank Redemption, which is not a happy movie. It's just one of those movies I watch where I can go, hey, at least I'm not Andy Dufresne. Woo, that guy's life sucks. Stay out of the laundry, you Andy Dufresne. All right, those sisters are after you. Stay away. But yeah, so Chef was a great movie for just kind of getting away from all the crud in life and kicking back and having a good time. Okay, before we move on from the appetizer to the main entree, I just wanted to kindly ask you if you would like this video and subscribe to this channel, all right? That'd be fantastic, just get down there. It's so easy. Look at that tempting candy-like button, the like button and the subscribes button. They're calling to you. Come press us. Come click on us. They're right there. Yeah, like and subscribe. All right, that was freaky. I promise never to do that again for the next 5 minutes. All right? And also, hey, feel free to get down in the old comments section, get down and dirty, and let me know if you've seen Chef, what do you think, okay? Or let me know, hey, after you've seen this spoiler-free review, are you going to go watch it? Because in addition to liking this movie and watching movies and liking watching the movies, I like hearing what other people thought and giving me like not just telling me they watched it, but like saying, hey, what's your favorite scene or what's a good moment, what you really liked about it, what's something that you didn't like about it, that kind of thing. So you can throw all that down in the comments section if you would. That'd be fantastic, all right? You guys are doing me a solid. You guys never let me down. I tell you, you guys never let me down. You're the best. One thing I like about the Chef Carl Casper character that Jon Favreau plays is he is a down-to-earth guy. He's a humble guy, okay? He does well at what he does. He's an expert. He is a maestro in the kitchen, but he's still down to earth, still humble. And one of the exhibits of that is an early scene where he's just going through on his iPad, just checking out Twitter, because that's one of the parts of the movie is that he has no idea what Twitter is, and he's just been introduced to it. So now that he's been introduced to it, he's kind of fascinated. He's going through it like this, and he's just eating this bowl of looks like chocolate Cheerios or something like that, or Cocoa Puffs. And me, personally, I found that mildly amusing because here we have this world-renowned chef. He's got this kitchen right there and all this food, all these ingredients. And so instead of like whipping up something, he's like just eating some chocolate Cheerios. I personally thought that was kind of funny. And then also later on in the movie, there's a funny scene with his son where he's just eating a big old, eating out of a big old bag of kettle corn, when they're walking through a farmer's market. And but it might be mildly amusing to you, like once you get into the movie and you see him whipping up all of this fancy food, all this mouth-watering food that you see, and then after that, after the cooking montages, I should say, that he's in, that he's just sitting there just scarfing down chocolate Cheerios, out of a bowl. So he's just kind of, he's going from way sophisticated down to a sophistication level of about 3%, But yeah, it's just one of the charming things about this movie. It's got to be said, okay? This movie is what you would call hardcore food porn, okay? There's no mistaking it, all right? It's undeniable. This is hardcore food porn, okay? And there's even a scene where Carl is pretty much seducing Scarlett Johansson. I mean, they're at his place. She's laying down all seductively on his bed, and he's whipping up some outstanding, amazing, tasty-looking pasta, in the kitchen. And she's just laying there in this seductive, laying on her side all seductively, just checking him out, making this pasta for her. And it's like this, the scene is played out like, the food is foreplay or something like that. She's, being seduced by him, whipping up some pasta in the kitchen. I got to say, it's the first time I've ever seen a scene like that, but it is effective, okay? So there is kind of like a sensual undertone, at least to that scene in this movie. But yeah, I mean, I'll be the 7 millionth person to tell you this about this movie. Do not watch this movie on an empty stomach. At least have a bowl of those chocolate Cheerios, that Favreau was having, like I was telling you before. At least scarf down a Snickers bar or a granola bar or something like that before you watch this movie. Because probably you're going to increase the business revenue of pretty much, all the restaurants around where you live by about 5%, from you rushing out to go grab, some substantive food, like what you see in this movie here. So yeah, it is, like I said, hardcore food porn, that's for sure. So yeah, so if you walk out your door with kind of an awkward look on your face after watching this movie as you rush off to your favorite restaurant, this movie would be why. Okay, everybody, right now is that time where we have that perfect convergence of movie reviews and ice cold brews, okay? So just like the tagline on this show, this is a home of movie reviews where it meets ice cold brews, okay? And today's lucky ice cold brew comes to us from the state of Michigan. I give you Cherry Stout from Bell's Brewery in the great state of Michigan, okay? Yes, the Mitten State. And this Cherry Stout, is very distinctive. So it's just a stout that's brewed with some tart cherry juice. And it's got some dark chocolate notes to it. So basically chocolate-covered cherries, okay? But it's not so strong to where you can't, where you forget it's a beer, okay? But it's got a very distinctive, it's a very tart flavor because they're using tart cherries, tart cherry juice to be specific. All right, and Bell's Brewery in Michigan. I mean, overall, it's great brewery. It basically brews my favorite all-time beer of Two Hearted Ale. Okay, and again, just want to stress, like I always say, not getting any money from any of the breweries that I do these reviews for. I just like movies and I like beer. I like brew. And you know what? I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a whole lot of people out there that love both movies and beer, okay? It's not uncommon. And so, hey, why not combine the two, into one fantastic show, okay? So, you know what? I'm going to stop yapping over here and I'm going to take a little drink off this Cherry Stout. Ooh, so good. It's calling to me. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. And you know what? It's got kind of it tastes a little bit like wine. I got to be honest with you. Okay, it's got that kind of wine aftertaste to it. But it's I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So if you're looking for a beer, if you're like, hey, you know what? I just drank like 16 cases of Bud Light last week. Or Coors Light, or whatever the mass-produced beer piss water is that you drink, and you want something different, you know what? Yeah, check this out, okay, everybody? All right, let's get back to Chef. One thing about this movie that it demonstrates for you is how expressing something on social media can spread like wildfire, especially when you don't know how to use social media, okay? And as I was mentioning before here, sorry, beer burp, hazards of the trade, okay? All right. Carl Casper doesn't know about Twitter, okay? I mean, obviously he's been too busy with his, chef, being a chef, his cooking career, okay? And so Twitter is, just a foreign thing. He has no idea what it is. So he's introduced to the world of Twitter, okay? And part of the movie is that there's a food critic that writes a bad review about his menu at this fancy restaurant. Okay, and then later on, it's revealed this food critic has a Twitter account. Okay, and so Favreau, not knowing Twitter, he responds to this food critic's critical tweet of his food. Okay. But Favreau is under the impression by replying to this food critic, who he's not following, and this food critic's not following him on Twitter. He's thinking that if he's replying to this food critic, it's a personal message. It's a direct message. No one else can see it, just this food critic. Well, he learns the hard way that, no, that is not the case, okay? You just broadcast your insult to this food critic to the whole Twitter world, okay? And so, that's one of the things about this movie is, he gets a hard lesson in how social media, specifically Twitter, works, and his misunderstanding, his lack of knowledge on that is like a springboard to the rest of the movie. It's pretty funny, and it's kind of funny watching it now because, as you can imagine, social media apps change so much, in such a short amount of time. So me, it's kind of interesting to see what Twitter looked like back in 2014 as opposed to what it looks like now. But it is kind of a fun part of this movie is, just just Chef Casper's just complete ignorance of Twitter and not knowing how it works, and it creates some pretty funny situations. One of the highlights of this movie, like one of the big topics or plot devices in this movie, or plot, basically big part of the plot, as you guys want to try to stammer out, is the arc of the relationship between Carl and his young son Percy. Okay, it's great seeing how it develops, from one extreme to another. Okay, and that's one of the big things that gives this movie heart and makes it a movie that is just a feel good movie, right? It just makes you feel good, and in this god awful crud pile that the world seems to be sometimes, this movie is a good reminder that, you know what, not everybody and not everything in this world is just the crap that you see on the news, okay? Because like they say in the news, the big mantra of the news is, if it bleeds, it leads, right? So they're going to sensationalize and make things more bloody and violent and extreme and whatnot to get you tuning into the news. Well, if you want a movie that reminds you that it's not that, okay, obviously there is some of that in the world. And what the news reports, on that stuff, yes, obviously some of it is true, okay, but they sensationalize it. But this movie reminds you, Chef reminds you that, there are humans out there that aren't all bad, that there is value to human connection, all right? Stop texting, call somebody, or do one better. Like, go out and hang out with, your friends, your loved ones, your family, whatever. This movie reminds you that people still do that, okay? And that is a reward in and of itself, okay, to do that. And so with the road trip aspect of this movie, where they're driving a food truck back from Miami to California. I'll drop that, about the plot there. And so, as you can imagine, driving cross country in a food truck with your son and then one of your best friends, his sous chef, John Leguizamo. It's just some great bonding time between Carl and his son Percy, and gets you right in the feels, that's for sure. It's and one funny thing about something that Carl teaches his kid is he teaches his kid the old school way that I always knew that fathers teach their kids not to drink beer, okay? And so, an old tactic is that, you're busting out the beer, you and your buddies or whatever, and you hand your kid a beer, or your kid asks for a beer. Instead of going, God, no, you don't get beer, you say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, there you go. And then, when you're 8 or 9, I mean, you can remember if you ever had beer at that age, which I did, like this. I didn't drink it in mass quantities, but a little sip, right? And it was given to me to demonstrate, like in this movie, that, yeah, to a kid, beer tastes like crud, okay? Now, here I am in my show. I'm reviewing beers, and I love beer, and I love the taste of it. But, yeah, when I was 8 or 9 years old, I wanted to throw me a Capri Sun or a Sunny D. Keep that beer away from me. That tastes like crap. And so there's a scene in this movie where that's a big part of the scene, and it'll be funnier, I think, to you perhaps, when you watch it in the movie. But that's just one of the great things about the developing relationship between Carl and his son Percy. It's a joy to watch. One of the cool things about this movie is it does have Robert Downey Jr. In it, who's one of my favorite actors. And it's kind of surreal to see him in this movie because we're so used to seeing him as Tony Stark, and he's, just doing his Iron Man thing. He's going Mach 3 with his hair on fire, and he's this big, electric, larger-than-life personality as Tony Stark and as Iron Man, right? In this big high spectacle, big budget movie, breaking box office records and that kind of thing, part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now here Robert Downey Jr. is in this movie, obviously because, Jon Favreau and him, they're friends, you could tell. They've collaborated on both the first two Iron Man movies that Jon Favreau directed. And so, Robert Downey Jr. is obviously, maybe doing him a solid by being in this movie. Or he just really wanted to be, in this movie with Favreau. Maybe wanted to try something different than the Iron Man thing. Now, during this time, he was doing the Sherlock Holmes movies as well. So he did get a chance to spread his wings from the Iron Man thing with the Sherlock Holmes. But, I could see how, maybe Robert Downey Jr. going, hey, what's this movie you're doing? You're a chef? And you're bonding with your son, and this is comedy. Yeah. You got a part for me in that movie there, John? John, old buddy, old pal, And so, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. he's in this movie, okay? Now, not for a whole lot of time, but he's in this. But even though this movie is completely separate from Iron Man, obviously, he's still doing his Tony Stark staccato kind of all over the place, unique, picadillo conversational style that you see, as with him as Tony Stark, where his conversational cadence and octave levels and directions are all over the place when you're having a conversation with him. And so he's basically a version of that in this movie. But yeah, again, I just think that it's just kind of cool that Robert Downey Jr. is in this little kind of indie feeling movie. Be prepared to be schooled for a whole new use for cornstarch in this, okay? All right? You may have thought you had an idea as far as the uses for cornstarch, but you had no idea, okay? You're going to find out in this movie a rather unusual handy usage for cornstarch. If you happen to know this already before you even saw this movie, kudos to you. I tell you, I bow down to you. I am not worthy. But, like I was saying, they go on this cross-country trip in the food truck, just three dudes, Jon Favreau, John Leguizamo, and then Jon Favreau's, young son in this. And there's a scene where, they're, like I said, they're driving from Miami to L.A., so they're going through a rather hot part of the country, or rather hot parts of the country, okay? And so things can get a little, little moist. Yeah, just kind of you might get a little swampy, and so cornstarch comes in to save the day. Yes. And so yeah, you'll know that part of the movie when you see it. I just thought it was funny. So, and inside joke, hashtag hush puppies. Okay, if you know, you know. It's got to be said, the Chef soundtrack is lights out. It is. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. There's no avoiding it. It's lights out. It's fantastic. Okay, it's got a very Latin kind of Hispanic feel to the music, to the tracks on the soundtrack, and it just it just enhances the movie. Okay, so his ex-wife, played by Sofia Vergara, she's Cuban. Okay, she grew up in Little Havana in Miami, and obviously her dad is Cuban, and so then they have, like, John Leguizamo is his sous chef, is his good buddy, so obviously he's Hispanic, in this. And so, I don't know if that played into why they decided to feature so much Latin music in there. But whatever the reason is, I'm glad they did, because it kicks. Okay, it kicks. They have, like, an all-horns version of Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing in this. And it's just, this movie's going to make you, want to jump up off your couch, your beanbag or whatever, or if you're unwisely watching this movie while you're driving, you're gonna be shaking your rump, in your driver's seat. I mean, I think that this movie just the soundtrack of this movie just makes you want to move. Okay, it's got a great version of Oil Como Va. I think at the end, at the end of the movie, the ending scene, and it's great. It's a fantastic soundtrack to it. It gets you fired up, and just one of the many great things about this comedy, this family tale and comedy that is called Chef. Hey, you guys made it to this point of the Movies Merica marathon. All right, you guys are the best. You guys didn't drop out. You stayed the course, all right? You muscled through the cramps and the shin splints and all that to make it to this point of the show. You guys are just fantastic. You're fantastic. And you know what? You guys would be even more fantastic again if you would like this video and subscribe to this channel. It's just right down there. Those two buttons right down there, the like and subscribe button, okay? And also, like if you're on YouTube or Rumble, hit the notification bell down there to get notified whenever these episodes are, when we have new Movies Merica episodes available to you. Just makes life so much easier for you. You know what? It just shows up automatically at your door. Like if someone automatically delivered you your favorite pizza, once a week or something like that, and you didn't have to think about it. You just were walking around a place, all of a sudden you're I smell pizza. Oh, it must be Thursday. Hey, they delivered my Meat Lovers pizza for me automatically. I didn't have to remember to pick up the phone or, get on an app or nothing like that. The pizza's right there. Oh, and it's hot, piping hot, just like I like it. You know what? That's the same concept with Movies Merica and that notification bell, all right? So go ahead and do it, okay? And then, hey, in the comments, let me know what you think about Chef, Or, did this review convince you to watch it again? I mean, that'd be, or watch it the first time, okay? So, all right, hey, let's move on through. Let's get back to Chef. Now, I got to say that, like I said, Sofia Vergara is in this movie, okay? And her voice is not annoying like it is on Modern Family, okay? Where she, is on there. She plays Ed O'Neill's wife. And I'm guessing for that movie, I guess I can't recall what she sounds like in real life. Maybe she's just, acting and, obviously she's acting on Modern Family. But maybe she's just doing a special voice for Modern Family that just, personally grates on my nerves. But in Chef, I mean, you know what? She doesn't have an annoying, screechy voice like she has in there. She's not Fran Drescher from The Nanny, right? Another example of a voice that just grates on your brain. Now, Sofia Vergara, she is actually quite luminescent in this movie. Okay, she is a kind of a grounded, even-keeled, very loving, not center, but, just a big pillar in this movie, right? She's a grounding, level-headed force in this movie. And I buy her as Jon Favreau's concerned ex-wife in this, because even though they're divorced, they don't live with each other. Just in her eyes, she sells in her eyes that as she is Chef Casper's concerned ex-wife. All right, they're not together anymore, but you could tell that there's still that love there, and she's still concerned about him. And you also can buy that. She is, Percy's loving mother. I think she knocks it out of the park, in this movie, just with her performance. I mean, she's just fantastic. And, she's funny, in this movie. But, Sofia Vergara, I was pleasantly surprised, by her performance in this movie. I mean, I saw, before I ever watched this movie the first time, that she was in it. And I just thought that she's going to be like a non-factor and not really going to be anything, that I would find as a highlight in the movie. But, yeah, she's fantastic and hilarious in this movie. This would not be a proper Chef review if I didn't say that I love the camaraderie between the characters, that John Favreau and John Leguizamo and Bobby Cannavale play in this movie. So like I said, John Favreau is actually their boss in this fancy West Side LA restaurant run by Dustin Hoffman. So he's their boss, Chef Carl Casper. He is the chef du cuisine. Chef du cuisine, I think is his official title. Man, I'm gonna try not to say that for another 2 years. That hurts my tongue, hurts my mouth. But so yeah, he's the boss, and then John Leguizamo is like some I don't know what his title would be. I don't want to say he's a line cook. He's probably more than that. And then Bobby Cannavale is like John Favreau's number 2 in this, and they're just funny, man. They're just dudes hanging out and having a good time and whatnot. And it's implied that at least John Leguizamo's character was with John Favreau's character in Miami when this chef Carl Casper character was making it big in Miami. And so it sounds like John Leguizamo made the move from Miami to L.A. here, so they've known each other for years in this. And so yeah, just the bonding and just the way they just give each other crap and all that. It's just hilarious. Now John Leguizamo, he's a lefty stooge in real life, but I try to separate the artist from the art, and this movie makes it easy to do that because he is pretty hilarious in this movie, and he's just like in this movie, Leguizamo, when he's not being himself, he's hilarious and he's great, But yeah, just it's just dudes, just hanging out and just doing dude stuff. I just thought it was kind of a cool part of the movie. I had to check, but this movie undoubtedly gave a big shot in the arm to the food truck industry. Okay, because I right after this movie came out, I couldn't help but notice, that you had more advertisements, more postings up, for, hey, check out our food truck here, check out our food truck there. Food truck communities, and we're going to have this food truck festival here or there and whatnot. And I never saw so much of that until after this movie came out. Obviously there were food trucks before this movie came out, but, not to the extent that we saw, in the years following this movie. I don't know if it's died down or not. I still see a lot of food trucks. Thank God, because a lot of them are awesome. Okay. All right. Just some good old food made out of love, available to you. So, but yeah, chef, I'm sure a lot of people, even like on the verge or toying around with the idea of getting a food truck. I think this probably sent them over the finish line, in that decision process. Or people already had food trucks, were, invigorated with new food truck energy. They went out there and, they did it up even better. But, that, like I said, that's just another part of this movie that's going to make you just want to, it's going to make you ravenous, okay? You're just going to want to go out there. You're just going to eat everything. I mean, you might end up like your dog and you're gnawing on the side of your couch. I mean, you're just going to want to eat something, right? And so, like I said, I warned you. Don't watch this movie on an empty stomach, all right? So just be gnashing on something while you're watching this movie, all right? Okay, hey, that is going to bring it to a close for this chef review. Obviously, if you have more than 2 brain cells in your head, you can tell I think you should go and watch this movie, okay? It's, it's periodically on Netflix and on Amazon Prime. You can definitely buy it online, or you can get a hard copy somewhere. So, but yeah, check out Chef, okay? You will not be disappointed, okay? All right? And just, remind everybody, like I said, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're watching this episode. If you're just listening to it on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, some other platform, feel free to give it a 5-star rating, write a review on there. There's usually like a follow the show or subscribe option on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those platforms right there. So, hey, feel free. You are humbly invited to hit that old follow the show or subscribe button, okay? Even if you're just listening to this, but I would check this show out actually on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute. It's on Facebook as well, okay? So check it out there so you can see my smiling mug. All right, it's a creepy smile. I could just tell. I'm going to stop that. All right. So with that, as I always say, get out there, people. Those movies aren't going to watch themselves. See ya.
Hey, don't leave yet. Hey, you know what? The night is still so young. You didn't get that babysitter for nothing. Come on. It's only whatever o'clock, okay? Stay here. And hey, while you're here, subscribe to this channel and like the video if you would, all right? It'd be great, okay? Absolutely. So, and if you do, drinks are on me, all right? Hey, you know what? And while I'm in the asking mood, feel free to watch these videos over here and like them, all right? So, okay, let's do it. Yeah, party time. See ya.